We've told you time and time again that the attendance at Walt Disney World appears to be down. Yet the stock for Disney is up, in part because they say attendance is up. So who's right and who's wrong? Today we'll dive into the numbers and what other websites are saying and reveal to you whether or not it is a sparse time at the House of Mouse in Florida. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel that continues to change hearts and minds with the kind of conversations that help you find a vacation you need, as well as the kind of entertainment that keeps your family sustained on the kind of content that uplifts rather than drains your brain. Folks, as we get ready to dive in, consider clicking the like button, and we'll get started right now. This is out of Blog Mickey. It says Disney Parks Division records revenue of $8.9 billion in the second quarter of 2025. The Walt Disney Company has released its second quarter earnings for fiscal year 2025 in the Experiences division that encapsulates the Disney theme parks, cruise line, and products. Products matters there. Posted a revenue of $8.9 billion with an operating income of $2.5. On the revenue side, that represents a 6% increase versus this time last year, and on the operating income front, Disney Experiences saw a year-over-year bump of 9%. As we get into this, I just want to bring everybody's attention to the fact that Disney combining their parks with products is a very strange division. It's a very strange set of bedfellows there because they don't seem to have all that much in common. I suspect that, as Disney so often does, that they actually combine these together to make it more difficult to figure out what's going on. They say domestically, theme parks recorded $6.5 billion in revenue and $1.8 billion in profit, a 9% and 13% jump respectively. And yet we said this was going to be a nightmare quarter for Disney, and we said that attendance was going down. So are we wrong? We'll get to it. International parks saw a 5% decline in revenue to $1.4 billion and a 23% decline in operating income to just $225 million. Goes on to talk about what Disney had to say about all of this. And well, Disney says that higher volumes attributable to increases in passenger cruise days, theme park attendance, note that, they're saying that there's an increase in theme park attendance, occupied room nights, and Disney Vacation Club unit sales. Additional passenger cruise days reflected the launch of the Disney Treasure in the first quarter of the current year. So Disney says that guests spent more and more guests came to their Disney theme parks. However, that is in complete contrast, totally the polar opposite from what we've been saying. The question is, who's right, who's wrong? Well, folks, let's go to the reasons that we think that we're right, and then we're going to dive into what Disney may be using to get these kinds of numbers to hand to investors. If we go to wdwpassport.com and we take a look at the first quarter of 2024, this is a website that they don't track just waiting times, they track crowd levels. Now, you can see here down in 2024 that the average crowd level for January 2024 was 6. The average crowd level for January 2025 for Walt Disney World was 5. The average crowd level for February 2024, 6. The average crowd level for February 2025, 4. And for March of last year, it was 6. For March of this year, 5. In every single one of these months, this website, WDW Passport, claims that crowds were more last year than they are this year. And particularly in February, not by a little. Well, maybe that's just one cuckoo kind of website that we shouldn't be listening to. Maybe they've led us astray. We go to Thrill Data. According to Thrill Data, last month, the Magic Kingdom was down 7.4% in terms of wait times, which we correlate with attendance. Epcot was up 3.4%, but Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom were both down 2.8 and 6.7%, respectively. If we scroll way on down here, hang with me, folks. We're going to scrolling. Here we go. Here are the weekly average wait times. We want by the month. Here's the months on Thrill Data going back to 2022 over to 2025. What do we see? We see that in each one of these years, the crest is lower than the year prior ever since the pandemic. Since 2022, when Disney allowed you to line up like usual, the wait times are decreasing at the same time that attractions are also decreasing, which would naturally, logically, lift up the wait times. The less rides you have, the longer the wait as people try to get onto less attractions. However, despite everything we're seeing from Thrill Data, from WDW Passport, from anecdotal observations, from people and journalists on the ground investigating this sort of thing, Disney says that attendance went up. So, what is the truth? Are we wrong? Is Disney right? Well, to answer that question, folks, we may have to go to what happens at night. What I'm now assessing is likely to be, but Disney doesn't have to say this. They don't have to tell us. Disney may be counting the nighttime ticket sales for special events as a ticket sold as part of their attendance. Now, I think they should do that, but I think that they should tell us that. And I think not clarifying to investors that they may be talking about special ticketed events, I think that that's just wrong. Like, people need to know that information. In terms of daily attendance, I don't see any way to assess this other than attendance at Walt Disney World continues to fall ahead of Epic Universe, and I think Epic Universe is going to increase that. By the way, one more point, Jonas. Last point, Disney's not acting like they're telling the truth. Disney's actions in reducing the cost of going to Disney World for the rest of the year, as well as slashing the cost of going to Disney World next year, suggest they have a problem. Otherwise, why would they be doing that? Jonas, take it away.
This is one of the few instances where me and you might just disagree on this one, and that's fine. You and I have always had an agreement that we can disagree on the channel. I think this is one that, even if it is counting of ticketed events after hours ticketed events, I think that's fine for them to count that, as long as the numbers go up on revenue here. There are ways that, and I will agree with you on this, that Disney tries to obfuscate. They try to throw a smoke bomb in there when they say, well, revenue went up. Well, it went down in the international segments that you were promising were going to be rising in revenue, and they only went up because the domestic parks were doing so well. I'm hearing indications on the ground that the parks are crowded at times here, that you wouldn't expect them to be crowded. So I don't know exactly what's going on here, but people can be showing up to the parks. I mean, it's May. People are getting out of school. You would think that in a time like this, that revenue might go up for those reasons. They are charging more for everything in the parks. I don't know that I don't know that they're really hiding the ball too much here on this number. I do know that they have things that they have to work on right now, but I'm not sure I'm going with you on this being budgetary in the way that they have in the streaming figures.
Let's get Marvin in here. Marvin, you go to the parks all the time. Give us your assessment, what you're seeing in terms of attendance levels, crowd levels, and whether or not it matches up with what Disney says, or whether it matches up with what we've been seeing out of places like WDW Passport.
Honestly, I think it goes more with like what you're seeing out of WDW Passport. I've noticed recent times, especially during like more supposedly high traffic times, summertime, holidays, we're seeing a lot less people, there in the parks on a normal basis. I have remarked several times that, like, wow, this really seems like there's not as many people here, especially last summer and, going into this summer. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't match up to me. If they are counting the after hours events, I think that would explain it, because I've been to some of these after hours events and those are packed. Those are always packed.
Right. They're selling out for the most part. Go ahead, Vash.
Also, too, that the report does not delineate between like theme parks either. So if you're taking like the capacity and the averages of all those parks under the Disney banner right there, maybe you could then say, okay, well, Disneyland and Disney California Adventure are much higher than they were maybe year over year, the last quarter of Q2 of 2024 versus 2025. It's like, okay, maybe that's how they actually attribute to the overall theme park attendance actually being up, which I have heard on the ground, at least at Disneyland, that those attendance levels are very, very high. And also too, I do think there is something to be said about those after hours events like the Star Wars nights, for example, or the Pride nights, or whatever Walt Disney World is actually hosting itself. I do think they are counting that as an additional entry because you essentially get access to the park separate from the people who have bought in during the day, and that's kind of how they sell the park multiple times to multiple different individuals. They used to have a lot more corporate events. Now that's kind of waned a little bit in recent years, so they're adding more nights and so forth in order to provide additional revenue. The only parks that they actually talk about actually having attendance problems, interestingly, are Shanghai and Hong Kong. And we have noticed from Hong Kong, those parks are unbelievably empty, and that's surprised a lot of people. Also, too, whatever attendance numbers that they actually might receive at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, remember, a lot of that is annual pass holders. And while annual pass holders have had a difficult time getting in recently, they seemingly, at least on the early reports of the calendar, a lot of that stuff is opened up, which means two things. One, you have less annual pass holders going, which I don't think is necessarily the case. Or two, Disney has opened up their buckets, let's say, for annual pass holders specifically because they're getting less people that are buying into tickets and going to that resort. That is a problem because annual pass holders, well, they will spend less per day than your ticketed guests will.
Right. So we're looking at lower wait times at Disney, which would be a good thing, right? But if you're Disney, that would seem to indicate that there are less people in the parks. It could be, we could be wrong about this. I will say that Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios seem to be more crowded by far than Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Those two parks are really suffering. They have little to do. There are indicators that they're basically empty because the Genie, Lightning Lane, all of that stuff is far, far cheaper in those two parks. So, what we're paying attention to is how will Epic Universe impact the attendance at Disney over the next months? Again, we've been reporting that attendance has been soft. Disney is reporting otherwise, but we are open to all kinds of viewpoints. That's why Jonas was weighing in there. Jonas, do you feel swayed at all by the arguments here that maybe Disney is using ticketed VIP events?
Yeah, and they have used unusual numbers without letting everyone know. They've done things like that in the past. I'm not saying I have a definitive answer here, but I am hearing rumors that there's been some days with some incredible attendance levels here and there. So it remains to be seen what happens when May 22nd actually opens up here. But I think if Disney wants to be the premium theme park experience, it's going to be they're going to have to step up. But I don't know that right now there's anything like there are people who have had this vacation plan for a very long time who are just now hearing about the marketing push for Epic. So I don't know here. And of course, we have this wait time metric, which we've used this wait time metric many times, and it seems to be very indicative of when the crowds are heavy at Disney versus soft. But other things can affect that, including when things are shut down here. So I don't know. I'm saying I'm waiting to see what's going on here.
Marvin, I'll give you the final. We'll go to Vash, then we'll go to Marvin for the final word on whether or not Disney is fudging the numbers, not necessarily in an illegal way, maybe not even in an unethical way, but in a way that is leading investors to a different conclusion than what perhaps we see on the ground. Go ahead, Vash.
Yeah, this can be influenced by a number of factors, as Jonas beautifully pointed out there, including Disney's own reporting of their wait times and so forth. That can skew this just a little bit right here. It's really, really fascinating because we have seen, you talked about Pro earlier in this show about consumer products and how it was had been merged with Disney Parks and Resorts. That actually started with Chapek, actually. Previously, Parks and Resorts and consumer products were separate divisions. And then as coming from the consumer products division, Chapek was like, oh, well, go ahead and merge them all. In a similar fashion that Disney actually did that with consumer products and Disney Interactive. You'll remember that Disney Interactive didn't necessarily ever make money. So they just incorporated it into the division, and now we can't see those numbers. Unfortunately, the same thing has happened with the Experiences division. When it comes to Epic Universe, though, I'm not really looking forward towards those attendance numbers. I think those attendance numbers, they'll shift. Obviously, Epic Universe has a set capacity. They're only selling so many tickets in the first couple of months, obviously, to deal with that demand, to deal with how much capacity they can actually provide because of the amount of cast members or team members they can actually get on day one and so forth. I'm looking at those revenue numbers. I think we might be seeing the last quarter, roughly or so, that higher guest spend might be attributed to the theme park division because I think that revenue will drop off considerably when Epic actually opens.
Well, now, I sort of fibbed here because I said we'd go to Marvin for the final word. We're still going to go to Marvin, but something popped in my head, and I've got to go to Jonas to ask this. Jonas, you were a part of the Valiant Renegade coverage of the earnings call for a major company that just defeated Disney in terms of streaming, and I think that puts more pressure on the parks to perform. Can you give us a rundown of what happened? I guess Warner Brothers has come out and really done quite well in terms of their streaming, and that may put pressure on the Disney parks.
Right. Well, Warner Brothers came in with a 5 million growth, sub growth in streaming here at the same time that Disney's got a paltry 1.5, I think. Forgive me, don't quote me on those exact numbers. It was much bigger on Warner Brothers than it was on Disney. And the market responded, Wall Street responded accordingly. Whatever is going on with Max right now, at lower subscriber numbers, they're seeing better profitability here. And they're very much emphasizing the fact that people are showing up for their content, as opposed to Disney, where they're just insistent that these shows are doing well. They're dropping, as we keep bringing up, $645 million so far on Andor season 1 and 2. And when we look at the charts, they're keeping pace with like paltry reality competitions that Netflix is throwing up there for less than $15 million on the platform. So Disney is being absolutely embarrassed in streaming for those who are actually paying attention to the figures here.
All right, let's go down to Marvin for the final word on the Disney parks and how you see this going, Marvin. Attendance-wise, who's got this right? Who's got this wrong? And do you believe that this is coming from essentially late night, VIP, extra ticketed hours?
Well, if I could piggyback on the Warner Brothers thing for a second, I know the numbers because I'm working on an article, or I was before we started. Warner Brothers added 5.3 million subscribers in 3 months, whereas Disney put up 1.4 million. So a difference of almost 4 million people.
That makes me feel better about my gut on the numbers. Yeah,
you did good, Jonas.
And yet, the Disney stock is doing great. They're not, Warner Brothers might be doing well, but Disney's doing great on the stock. We'll talk about that in a minute, but go ahead, Mark.
Right, because of their fake theme park they just announced. Sorry.
I know. Go ahead, Mark.
Exactly. Yeah. So honestly, I think that you can't really look at the first quarter of this year in terms of what 2025 theme park attendance is going to be like, because I think that a lot of people are pushing off their vacations to later in the year solely because they're waiting for Epic Universe to open. So I think that once we hit May 22nd, we're going to start getting a real picture of what the 2025 Orlando theme park landscape actually looks like. What we've been seeing, the first quarter of this year, not a lot of people. I definitely think they're inflating. If Disney can find any way possible, because how often does Disney go into these earnings calls and they're like, "Hey guys, we goofed, like something's wrong. We didn't do something right." Like, no, they're always going to find a way to spin it as a positive. So whatever numbers they have to move around to make it seem like what they want to make it seem like, I think they're going to do that within the bounds of what could be considered legal. So yes, I think that they are throwing the late night stuff into there. That would be my best guess. I'd be shocked if they weren't. And to agree with Jonas, I think that they're able to do that, but also to agree with Pro, I think that they should also reference the fact that that is the case. So yeah, like I said, I think that come the 22nd, that's when the real game starts, and that's when we're going to actually see what's going on.
And folks, we have come to the end yet again. Another video of excellence in the can. What a joy it has been to share time with you. We hope you enjoyed it as well. If so, consider clicking that like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. And as always, drop a comment down below. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join a community dialogue today, just on down below. Folks, we are going to say farewell for now, but we will see you back. 4 is more, and that's how many videos we put out every single day here on the Pro channel. Hope you enjoy them all. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Hey, Floral, guess what?
You put a fork in Pro's microwave again.
No, that was yesterday.
I don't know that what.
Oh, I've decided to give up on torturing Jonas.
What? Why? In the same way the cat sleeps like 20 hours a day, that was like your purpose.
I know, but I've decided there's bigger fish to fry.
Okay.
Like Lorne. I mean, think about it. Everybody loves him. He's a fan favorite, and frankly, he has almost no weaknesses I can find. Except that he's really smart.
So, you want to annoy the one panelist without a single flaw, because he's smart.
Yeah, like that winged statue at that fancy Paris museum thingy. I want to break the one thing that everyone loves most.
So, kind of like the opposite of Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to see her all the time at family reunions anyway.
You get to see Rachel Zegler?
Yeah. She's a total troll. Lives under a bridge, harasses billy goats, the whole 9 yards.
It all makes sense now.
Speaking of which, maybe she'll get me... Okay, I'm gonna call her on my... I'm gonna call her and see if she'll be in the next Indiana Jones. She should be the next Indiana Jones. That'll totally destroy Lord. He loves Indiana Jones.
Oh, that's cruel.
Hey, Rach. I've got a cool idea for you that involves a whip and snakes.
I love that description. It's perfect.
I know, right? Weird, as we always say.